I'd like to call this meeting to order. Board of Directors, LPRCA, Wednesday, May the 4th. And as you know, this is a Zoom virtual meeting. I just spoke about that. So as a starter, as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, will be posted to our YouTube channel at a later date. Secondly, there was an email sent out by Ken Hewitt. I'd like to let everyone know that I've accepted the nod from the Premier to run in this coming provincial election. As such, I'll be stepping away from duties as a board member until further notice when the outcome of the election happens. So are there any additional agenda items? Seeing none, is there any declaration of conflict of interest from anyone? Seeing none, then I have a motion that the minutes of the LPRCA Board of Directors meeting held April 6, 2022 be adopted as circulated. And I have a mover and a seconder. Tom and Dave. Are there any omissions or corrections required to those minutes? Hearing none. Those in favor? And is there any opposed? None, so that's carried. So business arising, hang on, I got to catch up with myself here. There's no business arising from the previous minutes to my knowledge. And the review of correspondence, there is none. And then we have as number 7A. Pardon?
Correspondence or 3 minutes?
I'm sorry. So that is correspondence.
Sorry.
Correspondence, we have 7A. Hang on. From Paul DeCluet. Did everyone get a copy of that?
It would be in their package, yes.
It's in the back. Okay, fine. So I have a motion that the correspondence outlining the Board of Directors of May 2022 be received as information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Robert and Stu, or Peter, sorry.
Robert and Peter?
Yes.
Robert has something he'd like to say.
Oh, Robert, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's just a comment. I'm just wondering if Ken's letter shouldn't be received as official correspondence, and that gives a record of his status on the board, or whether what you had said at the beginning of the meeting would suffice. But either way, there should be a record at this meeting of his notification, et cetera, from an official point. So other than that, I'm easy.
Do you want to add that to correspondence?
But all we're going to do is this. We're going to do it with additions.
Yep.
And then I'll make sure it gets in the minutes.
Okay, so we already had a mover and a seconder. And thank you, Robert, for your comment. That a correspondence outlined the Board of Directors agenda of May 4th, 2022 be received as information with addition. So we will add Ken Hewitt's letter to the correspondence. So I still have a mover and a seconder.
Robert and
Is there Robert and
Peter.
Peter? Is there any discussion regarding that motion? Hearing none, those in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. So then we go to the development applications, and there's 18 of them. And Laurie, did you want to speak to that?
No, unless the members have questions about any of them. These are the applications that have been approved by staff
Right.
at the board's direction.
Right. So are there any questions from the board regarding these 18 applications? pages 7 through 13. Hearing none.
Looks like Dave's got his hand.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
I'm just trying to find it. Just give me a second, Mr. Chairman. I did have a question. I wrote down the details and I accidentally deleted it from my my other desktop. Just give me a second to catch it here.
That's fine.
Yeah. It will take me a minute. Virtual meeting, here we are. Nope. Attachment. When you want it to come up quick, it doesn't. Just give me a second. Wow.
72.
Here it is. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask a question on page 9 of our PDF, and it's 77-22.
Yes.
And it's the one on Hastings Drive, the proposed work for the shoreline structure. I know the board has had this sort of application before. Is this something that was perhaps approved prior to the some changes made in the legislation for the footprint of the shoreline structure? And what I'm getting at, would this cause erosion issues with some of the other neighboring properties on the Hastings Drive?
Laura, you want us to answer that question?
Yeah, yes, they had blocks there that they're going to arrange a little differently and then put some long point sand fill, you know, when they plow from the roads and around the cottages behind it and put some riprap in. It's pretty much the type of application that we've been approving since the board's direction in 2017 to allow these. We watch very carefully to make sure that what they're proposing to do is not going to affect the neighbors. So in this particular case, it's butted to a similar scale of protection on the one side and a boat ramp on the other, so it should be fine.
Okay, no, that's I'm quite satisfied with that. I just wasn't sure about this because these are the types of things we've been avoiding recently, but it appears that the nature of this particular structure is not that significant where it's going to affect the neighboring properties with washing away their beaches. So I'm satisfied with that answer, and I thank you for that.
Are there any other questions for Lori regarding these applications? Hearing none. I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors receives the staff approved Section 28 regulation approved permits report as information. I need a mover and seconder. Mike and Val. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. So then we move to the general manager's report. Judy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the report, Mike and I attended the virtual Conservation Ontario's council meeting, and they also held their AGM that day. The new chair for Conservation Ontario is Alan Revel, and the vice chair, I think some of the board members will know him, it's Alan Dale, who's also the chair of Upper Thames River. So he is now the vice chair of Conservation Ontario, and I think he's a councillor along with John at Norwich. The other thing I wanted to note is the phase 2 regulations, they were released, and we are working through understanding the impact for Long Point. Specifically, we will be putting together a report for the board on the information that came out. I did provide the bullet points, the highlights from what the ministry sent out, how they're summarizing the regulations. So all these things have to be in place before the 2024, for the 2024 budget. So we have some work ahead of us. And the parks did open on May 1st in the rain, and things are going well there. We're continuing to have some people secure seasonal sites. Not everybody that said they wanted one had paid by the May 1st, but they're slowly coming in. We probably have another 20 to collect. So other than that, everybody's working hard and we're putting a lot of trees in the ground, but the rain has delayed some of the work that we're doing that way. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any questions for Judy regarding the general manager's report? Seeing none, I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors receive the general manager's report for April 2022 as information. I need a mover and a second. Peter and Stu. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. So next we have the first quarter financial report, and Aaron is going to speak to that.
So the first quarter financial report is to provide an actual versus budget update to the board. The consolidated and departmental statements of operation are attached in Appendix 1. For Q1, operating revenues totaled 1.28 million, representing 26.6% of the budget, with expenses of 724,000, representing 15.1%. This resulted in a surplus of $554,386 for the quarter. Revenues are 97,000 greater than 2021, or 8.2% higher than the prior year for the same period. Expenditures are down approximately 2,000 or flat year over year. The operating surplus of 554,000 for the period up to and including March 31st is $99,201 greater than the 2021 surplus of 455,000, or up approximately 22% year over year. Planning department revenues of 128,000 are in line with 2021 of 127,533. Planning staff have responded to 56 lawyer inquiries, issued 65 permits, participated in 39 reviews, and 13 pre-consultations through the first quarter. The forestry program has issued and awarded 2 tenders, resulting in $195,075 in revenue. And full year revenues are projected to be in line with 22 budget of 300,000. Seasonal camping revenues for the first quarter totaled 317,000 in comparison with 125,000 in 2021. At March 31st, 93 seasonal camping payments had been received, and in 2021 for the total season we had 397. The parks opened on Sunday, May 1st, and as of today, we've had 396 seasonal sites paid with 427 spots reserved. Seasonal camping revenues are projected to meet or exceed the 2022 budget of 1.161 million. Overall, the authority is in a positive financial position for the period up to and including March 31st. Outside of that, if the members have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Are there any questions for Aaron regarding the first quarter financial? David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, and I don't know, Aaron, I'm not really asking a financial question, more of a marketing question. But when we talk about the forestry and the budget, it really doesn't tell us, is this a significant increase to the authority, given the cost of lumber? Are we realizing this, or are most of the lumber increases going towards logistics and processing of lumber products? Do you have that answer, Aaron, or is that unfair to ask you that?
I don't have the answer.
Well, through the chair,
Maybe the manager
So-
does? Yes.
Yeah, we have seen increase in prices for certain timber. And we did last year and this year, I think the price we got on the items that we tendered were better than in the past. So we're just in the process of trying to determine, we have probably 4 bushes that we could put out for tender. So we're just looking at the market and getting some pricing and trying to figure out which ones to put out to make our revenue target for this year. We have 300,000 that we have to achieve. And so looking at that, Debbie, who's the forestry technician, she looks at that, and we also get some help from an outside consultant, just so we can try to time the market properly. So, but yeah, I think we definitely are seeing some of the benefit to the authority for the increased prices.
Very well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions? Oh, Mike, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I just wonder if Aaron can move to page 30. This is the capital projects list that we normally see at this time of year. And if you could run down some of those projects that are listed as prior year's capital levy. Does that mean they were approved in the year 2021? Aaron, if you could just run down that list and give us a comment.
Yeah, so possibly I could help out here on this list. So the items in the prior year, either last year or previously. So for example, large amount there under the flood control structures and studies, that is an amount that's been accumulating over probably 5 years. That like in the past budget, we did draw on some of that funding to do work, a repair that was approved in the budget of 25,000. So that is, as we started to be successful in the Wetby project, there was some projects that had been approved, and at the time the board had approved through the capital levy. But then when we were successful for the funding, that put half of that money back to the authority. So it's just been tracked through that pot of money and we use it, but it's always approved either through the board, through a special report, or through the budget. So going down, some of those other projects is money that was either left over from projects, and we just continue to use it as projects come up in the parks. And those small amounts are under Bacchus. And for the conservation parks, that's just residual money that we will use. For example, in Haldeman this year, our pump seized that we're taking water from the lake. So we're going to draw down on that 1369 because we had to buy a new intake pump. So things like that, we do use it if it qualifies for capital. Now, the other large ones, that was approved in the budget. The one for the dump truck, we had 41,000 left over from the backhoe. So that was approved in the budget to put it towards the dump truck. So that kept it off the current levy in 2022. And the park signs, we're picking away at some of those things, but working on getting all the signs updated, but it's also based on what resources we have for people and bodies to do that. But we did use some of that money up last year, and we have plans to use some of that money this year. And then down in the other areas, so that special project for the IT assessment last year with some changes in staff, et cetera, we did not do that project. We have plans to do that, a form of that project this year. And the office furniture and flooring, rolled those up. That's basically three numbers in there, and that's just money that's been accumulating from, we need to do the office upgrade with furniture, but again, it's just a resource issue, so that would go towards upgrading the furniture and the flooring in the office space here.
Do you think that will be, it's been there for a couple of years now.
Mhm.
Do you think that's something that will happen in the year 2022 then?
I don't really have any plans for that in 2022, just with the staff complement that we have right now. And then the additional work that's been put on is from NECP. It's just, there's only so much time to do it, so.
But we will be keeping that then as a placeholder too.
Yeah, we definitely need to do something with that money.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To add to that, just a comment, I don't think $125,000 to replace your carpet and your office furniture with it. Is that sufficient money, do you think, if that project was done? Would that do it? Close?
It would be close. I
Be
think.
close?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Aaron regarding the Q1 report? Hearing none, I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors receive the Q1 financial report, March 31st, 2022, for the period up to and including March 31, 2022 as information. I need a mover and a seconder. Okay, Tom and Ian. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Then we have the authorization for a federal funding agreement, and Aaron is going to speak to that also.
So in 2020, the Bacchus Committee and staff started planning and fundraising for a revitalization project at the Bacchus Education Center. As the facility and exhibits were established in 1991 and are starting to get dated. The revitalization project includes new flooring, paint, lighting, and updates and new exhibits, displays, and paneling. In 2022, staff submitted an application for a federal grant program. In July 2021, staff submitted an application for a federal grant program requesting $143,250 towards the project. In March this year, we received notice that the grant application was successful towards this project. In late March, staff met with a representative from the funding partner to review and discuss the requirements of the grant. In order for this to be fully executed, the funding agreement requires a resolution from the board. The financials regarding the project was budgeted for $250,000 to be raised from all external sources. To date, we've raised $242,091, including this federal funding of $143,250. If the board has any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Are there any questions for Aaron regarding the government funding application and results, which were very positive and complimentary? No questions? Pardon?
Peter.
Oh, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, not really a question, just a comment that I was very impressed with the level of fundraising that the group's put together to date, and this government funding is great news for that project.
100% correct. So, did we get a mover in a second?
No.
That the LPRCA Board of Directors pass a resolution to authorize execution of the funding agreement with the federal government for eligible funding totaling $143,250. Can I have a mover in a second? Peter and Val. Is there any further discussion? And those in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. So that concludes our meeting. And we knew it was going to be a short meeting and therefore it's a Zoom meeting. And this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.